What is up, everybody watching? It is Friday, August 4th. We have the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show. Jackson Fyda alongside myself, Jerry Walker. And it is a full on football, soccer show again for you today. Jackson, before we hop into all that stuff, because the season is officially getting underway in Europe, very excited, as I'm sure you are as well. But how are you doing today? How's the Friday going?
I'm good. I'm good. Wednesday's playing, and we're back in the championship. So exciting stuff. Still down a goal, but hey, football's back, baby. Starting this week and then leading into next week, we're back. So it's a
Oh,
good time.
yeah. It's great. I mean, stay tuned for all of our Premier League. We're going to be doing some whole load of coverage on that for the season. So stay tuned. But you said it right there. First match, Sheffield Wednesday, your team against Southampton, newly relegated side from the Premier League in Southampton against the newly promoted side from League One in England in Sheffield Wednesday. And 1-0, 8 minutes in, Southampton took the lead. And what do you, how are you feeling about that? Do you think Wednesday have a good opportunity, or do you think it's that first match of the season? It's hard to tell a lot of things.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think Southampton's got a pretty strong team
Yeah.
for the championship for sure. When you look at it, they still have Bazunu in goal. They have Che Adams on the bench because they started Armstrong. So you have those two. Those two are both Premier League level like strikers for sure. You've got, and then you have Ward Prowse in the midfield, which Ward Prowse is elite at certain stuff. So they still have a pretty solid team. So when I was looking kind of before the game, I wasn't feeling too confident. I'm not gonna lie. And it looks like they're gonna take it. Southampton, honestly, they look like the better team. I'm obviously not watching right now because it's on the other side of my room. I'm assuming they're still dominating. Wednesday looked like they had a chance early on, and I got super excited. Can't finish though. Couldn't get it off, and then all it took was a brilliant Southampton goal. I want to say it was from Tella, right?
Yep. Nathan Tella with the goal.
Yeah, I don't know why on Google here it's saying Armstrong. I don't think it deflected off him. I think it was just a straight Tella goal, but it was a beautiful cut inside on the left foot, and I'm like, there we go. There's the start. So not auspicious, but maybe we'll turn it around in the second half here or end of the first half because we still got a little bit left.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the stats so far, Wednesday have yet to have a shot on target. Not exactly what you want to do. Can't score very many goals that way, if any. Kind of at that point, if you have no shots, you need own goals to be taking place. So not a great start for Wednesday, but kind of to be expected. Newly
Yeah.
promoted side, haven't quite caught up, and there's been a lot of issues going on with Wednesday this summer. So it's going to be an interesting season for them. I'm not overly confident. I think they can stay up, but it's going to
I
be a
think we'll stay up. I think we'll stay
it's
up.
going to be a tall ask.
Mm. I think we
I
will
mean,
stay up, but I don't think we're going to be pushing the envelope in terms of, possibly a top half playoff finish for sure. I think we're going to be towards the bottom and it's going to be a little closer than I want. I have confidence we'll stay up, but with new manager, different kind of look in a new league, we'll see. We'll see. I think we'll stay up though.
yeah, I like the optimism. I mean, I do agree with you. I think Wednesday will find a way to stay up. There are teams who are worse and in worse situations. I know QPR, the Queens Park Rangers, they have not looked good this summer, and they're one of the favorites to likely get relegated. So there's one team. You just need two others. I mean, looking at it for my prediction, I would have Plymouth Argyle potentially going down, and really Rotherham just doesn't seem they seem to manage to always find a way to stay up, but I'm not overly expecting too much of them. That could be another team that goes down. So we will see. But on the Southampton side, they're one of the strongest teams, as you said. Another player that you didn't mention that I want to just mention is Kyle Walker Peters. They have him
Mhm.
playing right back. Got credited with the assist on that opening goal, and the Southampton team looks pretty solid so far. And obviously, it's the first match, but on paper, they look like one of the best three teams in the league and one of the favorites to get promoted right back up to the Premier League.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, I'm looking at this predicted final table. They have them at seventh, which I feel
Really?
like is low.
Huh.
If I were
I
to
think
make a prediction, I would have them a little bit higher.
Yeah, I'm curious. The predicted table, what do they have as the top two in the AFL Championship? The top two teams get promoted automatically for those watching. Next four teams play in a playoff for one spot. So I'm just curious, what's that 1 through 6 order?
So 1 is Middlesbrough, which
That makes sense.
maybe. And then 2 is Leicester. I like that one. I think Leicester's got a very strong team. They've kept a fair amount. Obviously, you lose Madison. That's a huge blow. You lose some other players, but you're keeping a fair amount. Like Tielemans is gone. They still have a fair amount of players that I think can get the job done. You still have Vardy at the club. So you still have some guys who can get it done. I think they'll be good. I like that call. And then 3, they have Coventry, 4, Swansea, 5, Sunderland, 6, Leeds. So that leaves Southampton just missing out is what they're predicting.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't disagree with that. I do think Southampton is probably one of the better 3 or 4 teams in the league. But you said, just correct me again, it was Middlesbrough 1, Leicester 2, and it was Coventry at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know you said, was it Swansea was in there, Leeds,
Swansea
and who was the
4, and then Sunderland 5, Leeds
Sunderland
6.
5. Hey, Sunderland, I mean, they've had their ups and downs in abundance the last couple of years, so it's going to be.
I want them back up, man.
Yeah. There are certain teams like Sunderland. I'm biased, and I'd say Leeds, but also at the same time, like Leicester feels like a team that belongs in the Premier League at the moment. Other teams, I mean, we saw Watford, West Brom have been in the Premier League for a long time. Stoke hasn't been there for a while, but they were a Premier League stout for quite a few years. It's going to be a fun season. For those who don't follow the Championship, you really should. They play far more matches than the Premier League. They play 46 matches each in the league.
46.
So it's a long season, intense, and there's always some drama going on, especially down the end of the final stretch, which we have quite a long way to go until then. But.
Long way. We're game 1 of a long season, but it's always fun. Like you said, at the end,
I mean, you have Wednesday starting today. I'm a Leeds fan. We play Cardiff City to open the season on Sunday, and this Leeds team is going to change so much in the next month, I believe. It's because there's still rumors of Willie Gnonto going away, Tyler Adams potentially. Liam Cooper was offered a big contract to go to Saudi Arabia, the captain of Leeds. Who knows what this team is going to be looking like in the future over the next month, because we do still have a month left in the transfer window.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking at least like as far as Leeds are concerned, my predictions for this season, if they don't get promoted this year, it's going to be another couple years of struggle. Not overly convinced. I think this is the one where if players like Adams or Gnonto do stay around, then they'll be good. And if they don't get promoted this year, they'll all leave next summer for bigger and better things. Hopefully Cardiff, who's been one of Leeds' boogie teams in the past, can get by them to open the season and get all things going under Daniel Farke.
You got Farke, which is if anyone knows how to get a team promoted, it's Daniel Farke, for sure. So I could definitely see you guys going up. I think it just depends on, like you said, what happens the rest of this window. What do you think about Adams? Do you think Adams goes?
He's the one. I feel like Gnonto is probably going to go at some point in the season. But I feel like Adams is the kind of player that he really could stay. And considering he's injured at the moment and likely won't be back until probably September-wise, he's one that would likely not be able to be sold for as much as he's probably worth. So fingers crossed that he does stay, because him in that midfield was a game changer for Leeds in the Premier League last season. When he got hurt and started missing out, that's when Leeds really started collapsing, couldn't possess the ball to save their lives, and ended up obviously being relegated. So hopefully Adams does stay. But I do like this one. I mean, Leeds only brought in 2 signings. Brought in Ampadu from Chelsea, and he's looked great so far in this preseason. Obviously, it's preseason. Take it with a grain of salt, but he looks like he could be a perfect replacement if Adams is to go, because it was the same thing the seasons prior. Calvin Phillips gets hurt in that defensive midfield role, and Leeds suddenly kind of falls apart. Same thing, Adams. Now Ampadu is kind of filling in that role at the moment, so fingers crossed. And otherwise, it's only other signing was a goalkeeper brought in from Newcastle, who it's going to be exciting to see if he pushes Meslier to find his better reign. But as far as it goes for Leeds, I think they are good enough to stay up in long, short of things. So we'll see. A lot of games left to go. Hasn't even started. So
Yeah, crazy. I'm not. I'm thinking about this Tyler Adams thing. Do you see the Chelsea rumors? I just
yes,
don't think. I don't think anyone's gonna go for him because he's hurt. So I kind of like your call. Like, who's really gonna take a risk on him? I mean, he played well in the Prem, but there are probably still better players out there with more experience at the moment. I'm not saying Tyler Adams can't become one of those, but I feel like, yeah, I think him staying is a very realistic possibility at this point because he hasn't moved yet and he's still hurt. So I think that's realistic.
The only other thing, thinking of the Chelsea move in the back of my mind, is we saw how Chelsea and the fans treated the other American they just had in Christian Pulisic. So could there be some of that where he doesn't feel like he wants to go to a team that does that? Obviously, if they offer him a boatload of money, different story completely.
Yeah.
But money talks in this sport, as we've seen with Saudi Arabia, time and time again. We could talk about that.
Started.
We were gonna kind of move on. The the championship season is gonna be exciting. Like you said, a lot of good players. Very excited it's back. Southampton's still up 1-0, very close to halftime, but keep you updated on that one. Moving on to a bigger match. The Community Shield is taking place on Sunday. Arsenal, Man City, because usually it's the winner of the Premier League against the winner of the FA Cup. As you know, Man City won both of those, so Arsenal gets the kind of not pity boat, but finish second in the league. By default, they get in second in the league. So Arsenal, Man City, as an Arsenal fan, what are you expecting from this match? Do you think this is the kind of match that can be the changing of the guard and really assert that Arsenal can beat Man City? Because that's something they really didn't look like they could do last season.
Yeah, I feel more confident now than I've ever felt. For sure. I think I like the squad. I like what we're doing with it. And I think City's weaker now than it was last year because Kovacic is a good player, but you lost Gundogan, who I think is better, and he was your captain, and he's been around longer under Pep. Obviously, don't get me wrong, Kovacic is a good player, but losing Gundogan, you're not going to replace him off the bat. So that's a huge loss, like immediately. They also lost Mahrez. They've lost a lot of players, and they haven't really brought in a lot. Obviously, they're going to sign Guardiola. That's like basically confirmed. So he's going to add defensive depth, but I don't think they really had that as a weakness per se. It's more just adding strength on already existing strength because you already had Diaz, Ake, Stones, all those guys. But you still haven't found that. I don't know if they really needed to sign anybody, but at the same point in time, that's when you kind of go stale, when you don't bring people into challenge, new signings. So I'm curious to see. I feel more confident about this game than I ever have before. I really like the way Arsenal's looking. I like Declan Rice in the midfield. I'm liking the way our defense is looking, even though we've been scored on a few times in preseason. I still like that. And I like our attack. I've always liked our attack. I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, but I actually feel pretty good about this game. I really do. And I'm curious to see how Rice plays in a competitive match for us, for sure. I feel like that's it. Havertz as well, I'm curious, but the main one I'm curious about is Rice. And I think Trossard might have a good game. He's had a very good preseason. I don't know if he'll start. I don't know who he'll start. I think he'll probably lean towards Martinelli, honestly. But if he does start Trossard or Trossard comes off the bench, I think he could be a big difference maker for sure.
I agree. Trossard's one of those sneaky good subs, and that's the kind of thing Man City's had in abundance the last couple seasons during their dynasty type of run is you take one player off and you bring on another guy who's just as good, if not at times better. Now Arsenal's kind of getting that bench depth going and bringing on guys like Trossard. Even if you don't start Kai Havertz and you bring him off the bench, another guy that can be dangerous. And I like Arsenal's chances in this one a lot. Man City have lost the last two Community Shield ties, lost to Liverpool 3-1 last year, and then Leicester 1-0 the year before. So not great for them. And one thing that I've seen is Man City always starts the season not slow by their standards, but slower. And usually it's that after Christmas they really take off, and that's what we saw this past Premier League season, where Arsenal was kind of not running away with it, but looked very comfortable for a while. And then Man City found that next gear and really just went on a run and took over. So I think this is a chance for Arsenal to kind of get some revenge, get a trophy on their belt. It would now tie Tottenham with trophies this season after they got the Tiger Cup. That's always a good thing.
Hey, we got the Emirates Cup.
Yeah, that's right. So we give them a lead over Tottenham once again.
Yeah, that'd be 2. We beat Monaco and Pens in probably the most boring game I've watched all preseason. That game, so I only caught the second half because I was busy in the first half, but the second half was droll. And honestly, Monaco looked better than us. I was pretty disappointed in it, but still won it. Won in Pens. So.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, do you have a prediction for this match? Because it is going to be I'm interested to see what type of team Pep puts out for City. Don't know if he'll necessarily play the stars. He might leave Haaland on the bench early on, because as important as it is, or as nice as it is to win a trophy, you'd rather not be winning the trophy at the beginning of the season, but rather be winning trophies at the end of the season.
Yeah. I'm thinking 2-1 Arsenal. I think we win by a goal. I'm feeling confident. The Jesus situation's a little iffy in terms of what we're going to do. Up top, obviously, you have that little injury. Yeah. So, I don't know. Nketiah up top, I guess. But I don't think – most of our goals don't come from our striker anyway. So, I'm not really too concerned about that, I guess. So, I still think 2-1.
Yep, I like that prediction. I might go 1-0. I'll go 1-0 Arsenal. I do think that they do get it done in this one, but I think it's kind of a relatively sloppy match. Little physicality plays into a part of it, and just still that preseason lull where it's not quite playing full speed and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
should be a fun match. I want to say it's 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday morning, so worth watching to say the least. I will try and tune into that. Might be going off to see some IndyCar, so who knows? But
fair enough.
It'll be a fun match nonetheless. And I'm just happy. This is the start of the Premier. This marks the start of the Premier League season. Really, we're back in business. Obviously, we have had some other competitions going on throughout the summer. MLS has been going on. Leagues Cup, Women's World Cup, which we'll touch on those in a bit. But it just feels something special about when the European leagues come back. And this week it's the Championship and League One, League Two in England. Next week it's always the Premier League. I want to say it's also one of the other Big Five leagues comes back next week. I think La Liga comes back next week. The Bundesliga is the week after. In France comes back next week. Well, Serie A comes back the same weekend as the Bundesliga. We're back full swings as of next week. It's full pedal to the metal for the rest of the next 8 months. Wait, and we don't have a World Cup break this year. Nope. We don't have that middle of the winter World Cup break. It's going to be great.
Do you know the second Bundesliga 2, is already in match week 2?
They really?
Yeah, match week 2.
The German league moves so quickly.
Hertha Berlin's lost their opening 2 games.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Schalke has already lost once. Wow, there's some good names in that Bundesliga too, looking at the table. The teams that, when we were growing up, were in the Bundesliga virtually every year. You have Hamburg, Hanover, obviously Schalke, Berlin. It's good times. Could be a very competitive league this season.
A lot of good teams fighting for those 2 guaranteed promotion spots.
Yes, there are. And that's the fun thing about the Bundesliga as well, is it's the top 2 automatically get promoted from there, while the bottom 2 of the Bundesliga get relegated. Then it's that playoff match they had, that relegation playoff, where the third worst team in the Bundesliga plays the third best team in the second Bundesliga. Or winner stays up or gets promoted. What a way to do it.
That's like the best way to do it, I think. You got to have a little bit of that. I think that's like, I don't know. That's why I'm hoping if the U.S. ever implements it on a full-scale thing, that's the route we take. Because I feel like that would be so interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I know U.S.-wise, you always like having the playoff sort of thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if it'd be the bottom. So bottom two get relegated automatically, and then third and fourth bottom, they play a head-to-head. Winner of that stays up. Loser plays the winner of third, fourth place game from the league below, and that so on and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm still very excited to see when it does get implemented and how it does get implemented.
They delayed the vote in the USL. Yeah, so they were going to look at it. They delayed the vote because not saying the proposal's dead, but they want more clarity on like everything is what.
All the details.
So they pushed it back to a later date. I don't know what the date is off the top of my head, but it's still live, but they got some stuff to figure out first. But I do think it's going to happen. I will make that prediction. I think the USL is going to need that to compete with the MLS. So I think they're going to do it because that will give them something that the MLS doesn't have and that they can build off of. So I think they'll do it, but they still have some stuff to iron out first.
Yes, they do. And I think it'll be very exciting when it does because it just adds that extra level of excitement to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to kind of move on from Europe and that sort of stuff to the Women's World Cup that is going on at the moment. We are into the knockout stages. Round of 16 begins this evening or early tomorrow morning, depending on what part of the country you are in. And we've seen some shocks already. This tournament has been far better than I ever imagined it would be. Wish the time difference was a little better because I'd be watching much more if it was. But big name teams have missed out on advancing. Obviously, Germany, because we haven't talked about that for a little while. Germany draws with South Korea while Morocco beats Colombia. For Morocco and Colombia to advance out of that group.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? 2018, South Korea beat Germany to knock Germany out of the Men's World Cup in the group stage. Something's going wrong in the German FA, and
dude, it's across.
Seeing it, but no, a lot of people don't.
It's across the board, man. Like you go from being the elite national team in the world. I think between around 2006 to 2014, that team, they were just so competitive and good. Even if they weren't winning it, they were getting to the semifinals of stuff on the men's and women's side. And now it's just they've completely decompensated. Yeah. It's a drop-off of players, so it's obviously player development because on that German team that won, think about who you had. You have Philipp Lahm, Mueller at his peak. You had Kimmich at his peak. All these guys at their peak, you know? Khedira. And now you look at the team, it's just they're a shell of their former selves on the men's side. And it looks like the women's side's having the same thing. They tied South Korea. And South Korea is absolutely atrocious at women's soccer. I watched their highlights versus Colombia. They were terrible, and they tied Germany 1-1. I don't know what is going on. But some people have said that Pep Guardiola is to blame, which I love that shout. But they need to figure it out. Germany's hosting the Euros next year. They look awful. The men's team do. They get screwed off the field. They need to figure it out and figure it out fast. I don't know if they will, but they've got to take a step back, focus on what they're doing, and try to bring back that German identity they had. I kind of like this shout. It was Schweinsteiger who said it. It was about the Pep Guardiola thing. He's like, he came in, he wants to do his thing, and everyone kind of went along with it, but we lost our identity as Germans because Germans had a certain playing style where they work and they're physical, and they've kind of lost that a little bit. And now they're not getting the results. So you wonder if there's some truth to what Schweinsteiger is saying. But yeah, dude, German FA is in absolute shambles right now.
No, and I mean, even in this Women's World Cup, their opening match, they beat Morocco 6-0.
Mm-hmm.
They just missed the extra point. Otherwise, they would have had everything for them. And
Mm-hmm.
Go and lose to Colombia in the 97th minute and draw with South Korea. Something went wrong there, but it wasn't even just Germany as big name teams that are missing out. Brazil missed out on the advancing out of the group stage after they drew 0-0 with Jamaica. We've talked about Jamaica as a possible surprise team in the men's game. In the women's team game, they've been even more of a surprise. Drew with France, beat Panama, and drew with Brazil.
Right. They needed to fundraise to get there. They didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
And this team shows up and goes and knocks out Brazil and advances into the knockout stage. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Story right there. I mean, the other big name team that was knocked out in the group stage that we won't be seeing any more of is Canada. It was one of the top 7-8 teams, I want to say, in the world at the moment in the women's game, and ended up losing 4-0 to Australia. I think we may have touched on this a bit, but pairing that with a draw by Nigeria was enough for the African side to get through. And now we have 3 African teams in the round of 16.
Yeah. It's good.
It's great.
I think you said this on last week's show when you talked about when they expanded to 32 teams, we didn't know how it would shake up. It's been better than it's ever been.
Absolutely.
100%.
I mean, we're going to go through the round of 16 matchups, but there's so many teams that I don't think anyone would have expected to be in there. And I think we all, at least like I was saying last week, I expected it to be kind of blowout after blowout. Obviously, the top 8-9 teams levels ahead of the rest of the field, but that hasn't been the case, and it's been great to see.
Yeah.
That being said, I do want to hop into some of these matches and just kind of get a little preview predictions of them, starting with the game tonight, August 4th. It'll be August 5th by the time it starts. Switzerland and Spain. Spain's been pretty solid. Switzerland hasn't been as strong. Spain's one of the favorites to win this whole tournament, and they're coming off a 4-0 thrashing by Japan.
Which was crazy because if you looked at the stats, Spain dominated the game. It's very much like when you see the men's side, they had that little period where they would dominate possession, but they couldn't score. So Japan sat in, they defended well, and they took their chances when they needed. I think they had one chance that started in the final third. Like everything was a counterattack, I think. It was something crazy like that. And they won 4-0. And Spain absolutely dominated the game, but got dominated on the scoreboard. And that's really all that matters. So Spain is still obviously one of the strongest teams of this tournament. But if you can't score, you're not going to win games.
Yeah, I mean, looking at stats, 77% possession for Spain, outshot them. They were outshot 5-2 shots on target. So it's really just that they weren't finishing opportunities or really creating enough, and Japan was taking advantage of that. But it's that possession. Like, how do you have 77% possession and lose 4-0? Maybe if you lose 1-0, that happens, but 4 is absurd.
It's the craziest thing because if you have 77% possession, did Japan have 23 or is it counting for time?
They had 23 according to
Okay, so it's not doing time contested. Okay. So even then, that's 3/4 of the game where you are on the front foot and you let Japan score 4 goals. It is, dude, that's like, I don't even know. That is literally, it's like incredible.
That's the kind of thing that can just be so deflating to a team who has championship aspirations. And the other hand, Switzerland, I don't think we really predicted them to necessarily win the group, maybe get out, but they won the group over Norway, New Zealand, who's one of the hosts, Philippines. Obviously, I don't think we expected Philippines to do much. First ever World Cup, got their first dub, so good for them. But Norway and New Zealand, as the hosts, New Zealand's not the best team on paper in the women's game, but I feel like that hosting aspect would have helped them a ton, maybe giving them a boost, but it wasn't to be. Switzerland wins that group over Norway, ends up having to play Spain. And what's your predictions for this match?
I do think Spain takes this one. I still really like the Spanish national team. I think the Japan game was kind of a fluke. So I'm going to Spain wins by 2 goals. I like 2-0 in my head. I'm feeling 2-0. They just are so good on the ball. But like we said, the only fear is you can be good on the ball, but if you don't score, kind of like the men's team, Spanish men's team sometimes has that problem. So, but I do think they'll get past this game and go into the quarterfinals.
Agreed. I think it'll end up being 1-0 because the Swiss defense is yet to allow a goal in this World Cup. 1-2-0 and then 2-0 draws. So their defensive aspects, I think, is going to hold Spain and trouble them a bit. But I think at the end of the day, Spain has too much raw talent in certain players for it to be too big of a concern. Because, I mean, who is it? Putelis, the Barcelona star. She's superb and one of the best in the world. So give the advantage to Spain in this one. Moving down the bracket, next, the winner of that will play the winner of the Netherlands and South Africa. Good story for South Africa, but the Netherlands have looked very, very good. Obviously, drew with the U.S. women's national team and then beat Vietnam 7-0 to clinch the top of the division there, top of the group there. So,
yeah, I think Netherlands should walk through this. But South Africa has also looked very good in the games they've needed to look good.
Yeah.
Netherlands is very strong, though. I mean, they absolutely dominated the U.S. women's team in the first half of that game. Like, dominated us. Second half, we were all over them, but first half, dominated us. They're very good, and they should take care of this, but don't count out South Africa. They've got some very pacey players who can finish. So keep an eye on that game. I think, was it Magaya? Great player, looks like, for South Africa, who can really cause some mayhem. See, they beat Italy 3-2 to get into the knockout stage, so they know what it's like to beat a pretty good European team.
Yeah.
I do think Netherlands takes this, though. I think South Africa gets a goal, makes it interesting, maybe even 1-1 at one point, but I think Netherlands ultimately wins 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, they did beat Italy, who's the 16th ranked team in the world. Netherlands is 9th ranked, and I just think Netherlands they're on a hot streak. That's what I'm thinking is they drew the U.S., then obviously the huge win over Vietnam gives them kind of some momentum going into this. I think it'll end up being, I want to say 3 or 4-0. I think Netherlands are just a far superior team, but can't count out South Africa. They tied with Argentina, beat Italy. So, but I do think the Ricky Dicky Dutch get it through. Japan, Norway. This one's a toss-up. I can see it going either way. Norway has some superb individual talent. The team overall is not the greatest at times. Meanwhile, Japan is just always, even in the men's game, it's a solid team unit. And this is an exciting one in the rankings. Japan's 11th in the world. Norway's 12th, so it doesn't get much closer than this. I think this will be a very, very tight match. It'll end up being 1-0 or 2-1. I could see this being an extra time match.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think Norway's going to look like the better team, but Japan's defense is very good, and they have proven they're dangerous on the counter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm liking Japan here. I really am. But Norway, like you said, I feel like this is a toss-up. This is an extra time kind of game. It's going to take a mistake. Players are going to be tired. I think it'll be a mistake that puts Japan through on a counterattacking goal, 1-0.
I like that pick. The winner of that will play the big one, U.S. and Sweden. U.S. ranked number 1 in the world. Sweden ranked number 3. The way the U.S. has looked, it's hard not to pick Sweden in this
I'm
one.
going Sweden. Hard Sweden right now. Yeah, we do not look good. We don't look good at all. I mean, we're lucky that we weren't on that list of upsets we were talking about earlier. All it would have taken an inch inside, and Portugal would have gone into the knockout stage. Granted, we played better than them that game. I'm not saying they deserve to go through and play, but all it would have taken was an inch in the 91st minute, and Portugal would have gone through. I didn't watch that game. I was asleep because it was late.
Yeah.
I woke up in the morning and I was like, huh.
Well, I'll be down.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, they almost sent us home, which would have been like, dude, that would have been
That'd have been humiliating.
catastrophic.
Yeah, back-to-back World Cup winners in the U.S. to suddenly fall out in the group stage behind Netherlands, a little more understanding, but Portugal would have been tragic stuff for the U.S. national team. And I mean, we see how much the media is already getting on the backs of the women's team. They're playing a battle that's very, very difficult at the moment.
I blame the media so much because I feel like they've put unnecessary pressure on on this team. It is a different team than the past two World Cup winning teams. It's a change from the old guard to the new guard. Sophia Smith, they're all new players, you know. The only couple are Alex Morgan, who has been god-awful. I don't know why the hell she's still on the field. Megan Rapinoe looks like she's terrible now. She's 38, so whatever. But she's terrible. She shouldn't step onto the field. When she stepped onto the field, she was absolutely horrific. It's just a new team, though. Like, besides those two who have really not contributed, it's younger players. And you have to allow for that transition period because we had a golden generation. And now we're still very good, don't get me wrong, but it's different. And when you put all this pressure on us, and also I don't think the head coach is very good. I'm going to throw that out there. I don't think Anton's a very good head coach. But you throw all this extra pressure on us saying three-peat, all this stuff. Like you have commercials where Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence are talking about soccer when I guarantee they have never watched a women's soccer game outside of a few women's World Cup games that their sponsors tell them to watch. It just adds additional pressure. And we're lucky to be going through. And honestly, I think Sweden's going to send us home. We look disjointed. We don't look good. We look like we have individual talent, but we're not playing as a team.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me. It looks like we have a lot of players going forward. We're very good, but we don't play as a team. Sweden's going to play as a team. I'm hoping that our American spirit can get us through, but, man, I'm backing Sweden here to win by at least a goal. I'm calling 2-1.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think Sweden's just the way they've been playing. Beat Italy 5-0, and that was their toughest match. Beat Argentina 2-0. Only squeaked by South Africa. I'll put that out. They needed the 90th minute to beat South Africa in the opening match 2-1. But the way they've been playing, it just looks so much better for them than the U.S. women's national team. And I'm backing them 2-0. I think Sweden wins relatively comfortably. I think the U.S. gets great chances and just finds ways to squander them like we saw in that Netherlands match. U.S. should have won that one. U.S. really should. But
we can't score half the time. Alex Morgan, terrible this World Cup.
Yeah.
Like absolutely terrible. And we can't score. I do think if we win this game, I like our chances to go win it again because I feel like that'll be such a huge momentum boost, and that will mean we have figured it out.
Well,
so I feel like it's like this is a huge crossroad game, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of a make or break one. Obviously, if you lose, you're out. If you win, still need to win 3 more matches, but this feels like the big one that they're looking at. So, looking at the other side of the bracket, Australia versus Denmark. Aussies are the hosts or one of the co-hosts with New Zealand. They got off to not the best start, beat Ireland, then lost to Nigeria, and then beat Canada 4-0. But it was really the big difference in that Canada match was they have their star player back.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Kerr. She didn't end up having to play that match solely because they had already clinched an advancement into the knockout stage. So anything extra would have been just a bonus. But she will likely be fully healthy and recover for this Denmark match, and that's a huge difference. The Chelsea star is arguably the best female player in the world at the moment, and I'm back in Australia to win this one. I think it'll be 2-1 or 1-0 because Denmark doesn't allow many goals. They don't score many. They've only conceded 1 so far and scored 3 in this tournament. So,
yeah, I'm liking that prediction. And plus, you got home fans. They've been showing out for the Australian games, which fair play, Australian fans. You guys have been showing up. I think they'll ride that momentum through this game pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree with that. Moving down, winner of that will play the winner of France and another underdog in this tournament. It seems like there's so many, but Morocco, who shocked everybody by jumping over Germany, as we said earlier, finishing second. Now going to play a French team that has looked good overall, but has looked vulnerable at times.
Mm-hmm.
Taking care of business as they needed to. Smacked Panama 6-3, beat Brazil 2-1, but drew with Jamaica. I really, really, really want to pick Morocco in this. But I just think it'll be similar to the World Cup semifinal in the men's last year, and France will get it done. I think it'll be not convincing, but I do have much more faith in that France. I think it'll be it could potentially be as similar as that 6-0 thrashing that Morocco faced against Germany.
Yeah,
So,
I'm like, I think Morocco getting through was kind of a fluke.
yeah.
In general, like the fact that they won that game and Germany tied that game is crazy to me. And France obviously tied Jamaica, but I'm still wondering if Jamaica is really that good defensively because when they've needed to, they have shut teams down that are the best teams in the world.
Yeah.
So I still think France is that team. I think they'll take care of business. It'll be, I'm calling 4-0. I think it'll be pretty convincing. But you never know.
Never know, but it does look like it's going to be a relatively one-sided match. I mean, as good as we'll say South Korea and Colombia are, it's not the same sort of star power that you have in Europe. Saw Germany take advantage of Morocco, and there's kind of just results fell Morocco's way for them to advance.
Mm-hmm.
I do like France winning quite comfortably. It leaves us with the last two round of 16 matches: England versus Nigeria, Colombia, Jamaica. Start with England and Nigeria. England, one of the few teams that did win all three matches in the group stage, finished on a very high note after a 1-0 win over Haiti, 1-0 win over Denmark, 6-1 over China. I find it hard not to back the English in this one. Nigeria kind of snuck through with the results falling their way and Canada kind of blowing it. And they upset, obviously, over Australia, but Nigeria hasn't lost yet. Maybe I think they do. I think this one ends 2-0 to England, and the English go on to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you look at the tournament, England has been the most impressive team. I think Sweden right behind them, but England definitely is, for me, has been the most impressive team at this World Cup. And Nigeria's like played well. They've had like a really good tournament. Like give them all the credit in the world for what they've done. Obviously, getting out of the group with Australia and Canada in it, that's impressive as hell. But I think England is better than both of those teams right now. I do. I think the English Super League for the women is arguably the best league in the world right now. They've got all those players playing in that league. There's a reason they look so good. I think they take care of business here pretty easily. I'm calling 3-1. I think Nigeria gets a counterattack goal, but I'm calling 3-1.
Yeah, my one concern for England is the number of injuries that they have had. Losing many players before the tournament, lost a star midfielder during it, ahead of that China match. But that China match, because China's never been a bad team on the women's side. This was probably their most disappointing World Cup performance in a while, but still winning 6-1, getting that momentum going. I do like England, like I said, to win this one. This is the spicy matchup. I think this is a matchup very, very, very few people would have predicted coming into this tournament. Colombia and Jamaica. I'll let you start on that one. What are you thinking for this one?
Bro, I have no idea. I have no idea, honestly. Colombia looked so good to start out the tournament, and then they lose 1-0 to Morocco. So you go from up here to suddenly down here. Obviously, they go through, they win the group anyway, but at the time, they didn't know that. If Germany had gone and won, could have made things a little interesting. I mean, they had the goal difference over Morocco, so I guess they kind of did know heading in that they're like realistic going through, but they didn't show up that game, so they kind of came back down. Jamaica has been the surprise team this tournament by far.
Absolutely.
Like, they have been incredible. It's their spirit, their defensive, like, ability. I mean, they only scored 1 goal this entire tournament, but they haven't conceded yet.
Yeah.
They have not conceded. They're in a group with France and Brazil, and they have not conceded, which is crazy to think about. And they won the one game they needed to against Panama. So I think Colombia's going to be on the front foot. Caicedo is incredible.
Oh,
she's so good. But I don't know what's going to happen here because Jamaica's kept out far better teams than Colombia, but they also haven't shown a lot of attacking threat per se. I know, yeah, obviously they got that 1 goal. They've got, who is it? What's her name? What's their star player's name? I'm spacing on her name.
Kadia Shaw.
Hmm?
Is it Kadia Shaw?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Shaw, the Manchester City player. Yeah, they have her up top, so she can go and make something happen. I do think Colombia takes this one in extra time. Very close game, though.
I like that. I am going to firstly say, looking at the stats of Jamaica's tournament so far, arguably the best player in the whole tournament has been Rebecca Spencer, the goalkeeper for Jamaica, Tottenham women's goalkeeper. She had 8 saves against Brazil, 5 saves against France, and 4 saves against Panama. It's not like the Jamaican defense is slowing people down and not letting them get shots off. She's just been superb, and the shots that they are getting aren't very good ones. So a quick shout out to her, and I think that might be the difference. As good as Casado is, I like the underdog story of Jamaica. Like you said, they had to get a GoFundMe page going just to be able to get to the tournament. So that's a long trip from Jamaica to Australia. So I think they will win. I think it'll be an extra time, maybe even a penalty kick shootout. If it is penalties, I think it's going to be 0-0. If it's extra time, it'll be 1-0 with one of those counter-attacking goals. I'm going to take the reggae girls to get through.
All right, fair shout.
I'm going to go for something a little spicy on that last one, but
I like it.
It's going to be exciting stuff. If it wasn't for the time difference, I'd probably be watching virtually every one of these.
Yeah, that's the worst part, man. And I feel really bad because I don't know what the viewership numbers are, but they have to be down just because it's hard to watch a game at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It is. Like, most people can't do that. I can't do that. I'm a soccer junkie, and I physically just would be too exhausted doing that.
Before I get into this, like the last point I had on this Women's World Cup, Sheffield Wednesday have equaled the match. It is all now. Sheffield.
They just did, huh? Who scored?
I'm not exactly watching. I saw celebrations on in the background. Lee Gregory off a corner kick.
Let's go. That's the most Wednesday goal you'll ever see.
It really was.
Set piece, head it back, then bundle it across the line.
Hey, got to do what you got to do. And as long as the ball gets in the back of the net, doesn't matter how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing back to the Women's World Cup. I love, because, I mean, obviously Fox has been trying to get the women's matches, U.S. women's matches moved all around for the timing. Netherlands and South Africa. The only match that's a reasonable hour, that's 10 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. Central, because the Fox team was so confident that the U.S. women were going to win their group that now instead of the U.S. playing at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern, they're playing at 5 a.m. Eastern against Sweden. That just had me laughing my ass off when I saw that.
Well, they every game that they could put at that time, the only reason the last game was at the time is because you need to play both games concurrently, so they couldn't just play them both in the morning. That is funny. Because FIFA went through all that effort with Fox just for the U.S. to not win the group.
Because even looking at the quarterfinal matchups, the winner of that Netherlands one, which people were expecting the U.S., is at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones are 3:30 a.m. Eastern time, 6:30 a.m. Eastern time, and 3 a.m. Eastern time. Very unfortunate for those fans who were hoping to watch the U.S. women's team. And that's part of why I think like you said, viewership numbers might be down. Understandable why.
Yeah. FIFA scheduling gaff. Love that.
Oh, yeah. Great stuff. I mean, that's why we love the sport, though, at the end of the day, is chaos can happen, and you can't predict when teams are going to win, when teams are going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
There is one thing we can predict, and it is Lionel Messi scoring a goal in the League's Cup. Inter Miami, we'll start with this one. 3-1 win over Orlando City in the knockout stage, first round of knockout stage. Messi scores 7 minutes in. Didn't get given the penalty, which that surprised me.
Joseph, I like that. Martinez is good at pens. I like that unselfishness.
I do as well. But then Messi gets a second goal. We were talking about this earlier in the Slack group or in our Slack chat. Is it just that Messi is so good that it's unfair, or is it a mix of the MLS defending is really not that good and he's just taking advantage of it?
Yeah, it's a combo.
It's 5 goals in 3 matches.
It's a combo. I mean, He's the GOAT, but he's 36. What are we doing, guys? You have 20-year-olds defenders who just look lost out there. Like, and most of his goals, he's not going one-on-one, beating 5 guys and then putting it in. This isn't prime Lionel Messi in terms of his dribbling ability or his speed. This is Lionel Messi just being smart as hell, going to the right places, you know? Obviously, take away the free kick. That's just Messi being Messi. He'll always have that magic. But yeah, he'll always have that magic. But like the goal he scored now are like just smarter finishes. Like I'm thinking about his second one. He just, first of all, really unselfish from Martinez. Incredible, because I would have probably taken that myself if I were him, especially being a striker like he is. But he instead played over to Messi, who was completely unmarked. I know, like, as a defender, you're going to shift towards the guy there, but you had 3 guys completely shift there. None of them were going to do anything, and Messi is wide open. So it's a combo of Messi being smart and exploiting it, but these MLS defenders have never really been that good, and they're showing why now. It gives me hope for the future, personally, as a college soccer player, that all it takes is one good season, but we're really not that good at defending here in the U.S., and Messi's showing just how bad we are. I think it's that combo, but he's, at the end of the day, he is still the GOAT, and 5 goals in 3 games is absolutely incredible. Also, shout out Robert Taylor. That man has been reborn since Messi's come.
Yeah, no one had heard of him outside of maybe diehard Inter Miami fans, and now I saw something because oh man, why am I blanking on their other attacker?
Which one, Martinez?
Maybe it was Martinez. It was Martinez, Messi, and Taylor, the new MSN of Messi, Neymar, Suarez.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Taylor has like been unreal. He got the assist on the first goal. Talk about that one.
That was beautiful.
Just another moment of dumbass MLS defender. So how does no one look to your left and see the guy sprinting through? Again, Messi, combination. Messi sees the opening. He takes it. But guys, there are like 4 of you that just completely ball watched Taylor and just missed Messi. Of all people, you're going to lose Messi sprinting through. But that chip from Taylor, whoo, beautiful.
Those who didn't see it, Taylor just chips the ball over. Messi just outside the 6-yard box, off the chest, one-time volley into the back of the net. Nothing the goalkeeper could have done at all. Nope. To your point, the defenders were just standing there, like just looking around as if the best player in the world wasn't just walking right down the prime goal scoring up.
Again, from Miami's standpoint, that was an incredible goal. I mean, the run from Messi was so good, and the ball was even better. Finish was simple after that, but really, guys, Orlando? MLS defenders have been showing just how behind we are. I think some of the MLS attackers are really, really good. There's a reason why they're the ones going to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Our defenders are showing why they're really, really bad and why they get clowned on every damn week, because we're just really not there in terms of defenders.
Outside of Messi, there were some other ones I did want to talk about in this League's Cup. The round of 32 is halfway done, and it's been American dominance. The only Mexican team to have advanced was Querétaro, and they beat Pumas. So it was Mexico on Mexico. U.S. has won the other 4 or 5, and 3 of them have been on penalties. So the U.S. definitely has the penalty advantage. The one that really stood out to me was Atlas and New England Revolution. Don't know if you saw that one, but Atlas
watched it live, but
you saw, the result. Atlas scored 2 goals in the first 11 minutes. Then New England fought back, ended up at 2-2 after the break, and then went 8-7 in penalties to the New England Revolution. That match was just quite something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually shocked that the MLS is doing as well as they're doing right now. We have won every knockout stage game we can, and we look at what it's going to be like in the round of 16. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 MLS teams are already in. You're guaranteed another 2 because it's MLS versus MLS. You're going to have at least 10. And depending on how games go tonight, you could have just about all MLS teams. Leon RSL, I think, is going to be a pretty good game. I'm interested to see how that one unfolds. And then you look at some other ones like UANL, Vancouver. I guess Vancouver's Canadian, but they're MLS.
Still MLS.
Monterey, Portland Timbers. I want to see that one. I think Sporting Kansas City beats Toluca. I think America will beat Chicago Fire. But you could legitimately have like 1 or 2 Mexican teams in the round of 16.
And that's so surprising because for the longest time, it's just been Mexican teams dominate everything when it comes to competing against the U.S. Even looking at it last year, Atlas ends up winning the whole thing, I believe. Now, last year was just a showcase. Yeah, but
Pachuca, who ended up winning everything last year, Liga MX, went out in penalties.
Yep.
To, of all teams, the Houston Dynamo
aren't even a good MLS team.
They're not. I clown on them all the time for being the tragic organization they are. But they beat the best team in Mexico.
Yeah. We've talked many times. Mexico is no longer the kings of CONCACAF, and this is another tournament very, very clearly displaying it. The other match I do want to point out, Juarez loses 7-1 to LAFC.
Dude,
talk about an ass whooping.
I mean, that's bad. 7-1. Yeah. They're getting absolutely bullied by the MLS right now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. No, you going.
I was gonna say the other one that I just noticed was we had that New York rivalry, New York Red Bulls, New York City FC, and the Red Bulls won that 1-0 with another penalty goal.
Yeah, a lot of penalty games.
Let's just note, well, it wasn't even a penalty. It didn't go to penalties. It was just the one goal was a penalty.
Yeah.
But the U.S. knows how to take their penalties. At least the MLS does. Put it that way.
Keepers who can save them.
That as well. We're looking at you, Matt Turner.
Yes, sir.
Anything else on this League's Cup before I hop over to one final thing before we wrap up this show?
Not really. Just keep watching Messi, man. We'll see if FC Dallas can find a way to stop him, but I'm not liking their chances.
I'm not optimistic either. Doesn't look like anyone is. Fortunately for FC Dallas, it looks like it will be a home match. So there's that in their favor. Maybe. We'll see. I'm not convinced.
Me neither.
But there have been some transfers, and we mentioned Matt Turner briefly. Looks like he will be out of Arsenal and heading to potentially Nottingham Forest.
Yes.
Arsenal have brought in the new goalkeeper of their own.
Yeah, not officially, but looks like they've already agreed personal terms, and he's told Brentford he wants to go. So now it's just a matter of price. But David Raya will likely be heading to Arsenal this summer, pushing Matt Turner out because Raya is one of the better keepers in the Premier League. And now he's going to be at Arsenal. It's going to be Ramsdale and Raya. So you're going to have 2 league keepers. Huge. This signing was a little bit – I saw it and I was like, yay, but like I don't know. I think I'd rather have a striker personally. Yeah. But I guess it'll give Ramsdale competition. And if Ramsdale does some of his dumbass shit that he likes to do, then he'll get benched by Raya. So I guess that's good. But, yeah, effectively pushes Matt Turner out of the club. I think Nottingham would be a great landing spot for him, though.
Yeah, Forest still in the Premier League and kind of gives him another opportunity because, I mean, their goalkeeper last year was – oh, no. Why am I blanking? He was the Real Madrid – it was the Real Madrid goalkeeper for a long time.
Oh, you mean
PSG's goalkeeper. Oh.
Areola. No, not Areola.
Oh, no.
Taylor.
Yeah, Keylor Navas. I can't believe I missed that.
I thought it was Areola. Yeah, Keylor Navas.
Keylor Navas. Yeah, he was the goalkeeper that they brought in with their giant spending spree last winter in the January transfer window. Stepped up, and he's part of the big part of the reason they were even able to stay up. So it'll be interesting to see if he's even still around. But a couple other moves I do want to quickly touch on as we are at that hour mark. Another goalkeeper one, which we kind of heard was going to happen. Andre Onana has went to Man United, so Inter Milan are looking, and a deal has all but been agreed to, according to Fabrizio Romano, that Jan Sommer is going to be taking over the Inter Milan goalkeeping job.
Mm-hmm. I love Jan Sommer, so I think this is a great signing to replace Onana.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I think Onana's good. I think he's a little overhyped. I think Sommer was in an unfortunate situation at Bayern last year. You know, like he went like at the wrong time. You expect him to be Neuer, but he's just not Neuer. You know, so I like this move. I think he'll do great at Inter.
I agree. I think he's one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the world. We saw that for Switzerland in the World Cup last winter. He's
And
just
the Euros.
Euros in the past. He's a superb shot blocker and just always finds himself in a difficult situation.
Yeah. So I like this move. I hope this is the right, because he was at Mönchengladbach for a while and he was their best player.
Yeah.
I think, the amount, whenever they played Bayern, first of all, he turned into a god, but he was their best player.
Jan Sommer against Bayern and World Cup Ochoa.
Mm-hmm.
Two
best
players
goalkeepers of all time.
Show up. But
speaking of which, just got to shout out Buffon retired.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Best goalkeeper of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah. Absolutely one of. It's end of a crazy career for him. 28 seasons, I want to say. And I saw some stat that there was 3 goalkeepers that had played every season since like 1903.
Mm.
But somehow, some way, these 3 guys just kept playing year after year after year. And it was 2 guys who I'd never even heard of, and then Gianluigi Buffon. So, end of a goalkeeping era. He was probably one of the best, if not the best all time. So, sad day that he's retired. But that's anything else, Jackson. That's kind of, we are at our time limit. We did mention Gvardiol, who's going to Man City.
Mm-hmm.
All but been expected for a little while now. Not too much news there. Just adds to their incredible depth of defense, as you said earlier. Is there any other transfer news or anything else you want to quickly touch on before we wrap this show up?
Nothing major. I think we're in that period where we kind of get a little bit of a lull as teams prepare for final moves towards the end. But, expect some more fireworks coming up here in the next – starting probably – we might have a little bit more of a dead period for about a week, and I think it's going to ramp up as teams realize, like, as they start their season, they're like, oh, shit, our defense sucks, or, oh, we need a goal scorer. I think it'll really start to ramp up as teams make somewhat knee-jerk decisions. So, keep an eye out for that.
Absolutely, and we'll be having all that coverage for you guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you click that subscribe button on the bottom of our YouTube channel, or if you're watching there. Otherwise, stay tuned to the rest of the Vendetta Sports Media daily shows next week. They'll kick off on Monday. And follow along with us on Twitter as we have all of your latest sports coverage. NFL season just got started last night, even if it is preseason. The lesser of the 2 footballs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But a whole load of coverage there. NBA, MLB, NHL, whatever you like to make sure to check it out. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.